What you're about to see is the setup of the Sennheiser EW100 wireless systems to the Panasonic 150 camcorders. First thing we're going to do is set up the transmitter, and you connect the mic to the transmitter. It's an 1/8 inch connection. It's threaded, so you'll need to screw it in, but you'll see mic line on the top of the transmitter. Next thing, we want to set up the sensitivity on the transmitter. The sensitivity is the amount of amplification going into the transmitter from the mic. And typically what I like to do is set the sensitivity to -18. It's a good starting place and works really well in a lot of different applications for dialogue and/or interviews. You'll want to hit set again to store the sensitivity at -18, and then hit the on-off switch to go back to the main menu. One thing you will want to check on the transmitter is to make sure that the transmitter is not muted. Sometimes when talent wears the body pack transmitter, they put it on mute. You will just flip the switch away from mute to unmute the transmitter. To set up the receiver and the transmitter to talk to each other, we'll start by turning on the receiver. And we want to find a frequency that will work with this particular transmitter. And if you go to Easy Setup on the menu, and under Easy Setup, we are going to scan a new list. What Scan New List will do is scan the frequencies in that particular location and find an empty bank of channels. This usually takes about 30 to 40 seconds to scan the frequencies. Once it finishes, it will give you a particular bank and a number of channels that are free on that bank. Usually what I'll do is just hit set and set again, and that will set that frequency. That should be a free frequency, free of interference. You'll notice that the frequency now is 536.350. So now we want to sync the receiver and the transmitter so that they are on the same frequency. And if you'll hold the two up together with the battery compartment doors down and press sync, you will notice that a little check mark pops up and the two are now in sync. You'll want to check the transmitter to make sure it's on the same frequency, and in this case it is 536.350 megahertz. Now we want to connect the receiver to the camcorder. On the top of the receiver you'll see an AF out connection, and we're going to connect the 1/8 inch mini connection that is threaded to the receiver. On the other end is an XLR connection that we will plug into input 2. I like to plug into input 2 because then I can run the audio to both channels on the camcorder. Now, one thing you will make sure of is that input 2 is set to mic, since this will be a mic input. You can also check the AF out on the receiver. I usually like to put the AF out to -18, so just hit set and adjust the AF out to -18. Once you've done that, it's time to select the channels. And as I said, I like to run mics to both inputs if I'm just using one mic. So I'll run it to both input 2, channel 1 and channel 2, and I'll make sure that the phantom power is off on input 1 and input 2. You can see I have levels. I usually like to alter the levels so that one channel is a little bit higher than the other one, or actually one is a good level and the other one is lower. And that way, if something gets loud, you have a backup on the other channel. So that completes the setup of the Sennheiser wireless and connecting it to the Panasonic 150 camcorder.